The evacuation at Dunkirk, 1940. After Germany had invaded Poland on the 1st of September 1939, the British and French acted quickly and declared war on Hitler and the Nazis just 2 days later on the 3rd. However, the next 8 months would see very minimal, if not no fighting between the Allies and Axis. This 8-month period gave the still dormant conflict the nickname the Phony War. With no action, there was little reason for the Allies to panic, partially because of the new Maginot Line, which was on the French-German border. This was a nearly 300-mile-long French defensive fortification designed to prevent a German invasion. It was thought to be impenetrable and gave the Allied leaders the false impression that this would protect them from the wrath of Blitzkrieg. Up to this point, the forces present within France were the French military and the British Expeditionary Force, or the BEF. However, these troops were getting tired of the lack of combat and did not take the situation as seriously as they should have. Eventually, on the 10th of May, 1940, the Allied forces in France were made aware of the advancing German army within Belgium. However, they were not aware of the 7 German panzer divisions cutting through the Ardennes, a thick forested area which was considered impenetrable by the Allies. The Allies were forced to retreat from Belgium as the French troops were suffering from poor leadership and poor communication. Similarly, the British had to retreat back to France as well. The Allies were now retreating every day, and the Germans did not let up, with tanks, fighter planes, and soldiers coming out of every direction. The French wanted to regroup and counterattack, and on the 20th of May, 1940, the commander of the BEF, Field Marshal John Gort, carried out the request and ordered a counterattack in Arras, France. This saw early success, however, succumb to the mighty German military. The French wanted to continue the fight, but the British saw them, as well as the Belgians, as too weak to continue any effective counteroffensive. Because of this, Gort made the tough decision to retreat to Dunkirk as the only alternative to total destruction. The Germans were right on their tail, however, stopped just 18 miles from Dunkirk. It is likely that German General Gerd von Rundstedt, who was in charge of the advance, halted because he needed to wait for further infantry support to arrive. For his men, who were tired from traveling through France so quickly, this hiatus ended when the Germans resumed their attacks on the 26th of May. However, they had gotten held up at Calais, where the Allies gave tough resistance, and this resistance was considered crucial for the successful evacuation at Dunkirk. Gort then ordered a 30-mile-long perimeter along Dunkirk, where the British and French troops were tasked with buying time for those evacuating. The original planning for Operation Dynamo, as the evacuation was codenamed, began as early as the 20th of May when Admiral Bertram Ramsay decided an evacuation was necessary in order to save the Allied soldiers stuck in France. By midnight on the 27th of May, a total of under 8,000 men had been successfully evacuated. By the following day, on the 28th, however, that number had risen to nearly 18,000. The Germans were being held back for now by the British and French, but that line would soon break. They needed to get more boats to Dunkirk. This is when all boats that could be found, both military and civilian, were called to Dunkirk. While bringing the men back, these boats had to be on the lookout for both the Luftwaffe and the Kriegsmarine. By the 31st of May, nearly 60,000 men had been successfully evacuated. These civilian boats, or the little boats as they were called, had played a large role in this mass exodus. By the night of June the 2nd, the last British troops had left Dunkirk, and by the morning of the 4th of June, all British and French soldiers that could have been saved were saved, as the very last ship departed early in the morning. In total, although only expecting to save under 50,000 men, nearly 340,000 Allied soldiers were successfully evacuated at Dunkirk. However, there were still around 70,000 casualties for the British. Although the Dunkirk evacuation was in fact an evacuation and technically a military loss, it gave the Allies, and particularly the British, a second chance to collect themselves and to come back stronger. And come back stronger they did, as the Allies, with British help, went on to come out victorious during the Second World War. Thanks for watching.